When a lot of people prompt, they treat it almost like a Google search, like they're going to prompt and then they're going to get back like the best answer at the top, and like that's it. And for me, I'm much more, if I prompt, I want it to create kind of divergent, high level ways of looking at the thing that I'm considering. And I want to kind of search the whole space as quickly as possible rather than just trying to get to the result, because
Yeah, yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. I think about it similarly of like a possibility space.
I want to learn about economics. Let's start by tell me all of the top, I don't know, 20 different economics paradigms, models, ways of looking at reality, whatever, and get like really divergent and very diverse. Right. So I want to see the whole universe kind of thing.
Yeah, so it's like consensus versus radical, multidisciplinary, different paradigms, different types.
And almost always there are going to be several that you're going to go, I never even heard of that, but that's a really interesting way of looking at things. Today, I'm talking to Michael Simmons. He's a good friend, lifelong entrepreneur, specifically an education entrepreneur. Michael's built a seven-figure education business. 100 million people have read Michael's articles in Forbes, Fortune, Harvard Business Review, World Economic Forum, and many more. Michael specializes in blockbuster content and helping people go viral. And he also specializes in using AI and teaching AI in creative ways to learn and grow and get clients and succeed in business. So, welcome, Michael. Great to talk to you today.
I'm really excited, Evan, and thank you for having me.
It's weird introducing you like that since we're friends and we talk all the time. But anyway, Michael's very, very important, man. Uh, okay, so you and I geek out on AI, and you've been super uber geeking. First of all, what is AI, man? What do you think of it? Like, how do you think of AI when you hold it in your mind, and how do you relate to it?
Mm, wow, that's a really good question. Before I answer that, though, I just want to say thank you because you're the person who I remember when ChatGPT came out. You're like, this thing's going to be a big deal. And I'm like, okay, Evan, I got to get back to work, but I'll put it on my to-do list. And you're like, no, seriously, dude, check this out. And then I delayed again. And you're like, all right, you just like, do you have a second? And we just hopped on a call. You just walked me through it. And then literally, I've been doing it full time since then. So just that
Excellent.
means so much that you took the time to do that and like really changed my life. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I was kind of patient zero for a lot of people. I was just running around calling everyone and going, "Hey, look in here. The future has arrived. Probably want to be on this."
Yeah, it's really hard to see the future. And to your question about I think it's hard to see AI because we don't really have a category for it. So sometimes
Yeah.
people try to collapse it to something. Is it is it just statistics? Is it a tool for workflow? Some people think about it as an alien species. I
Hmm.
really liked your mental model. It's really stuck with me of thinking about it as its own kingdom. So there's
Hmm.
biology, then there's technology. We need to create a new category called intelligy. And
Yeah.
I think that's brilliant. And I purposely like practicing not collapsing it to one thing,
Mm.
but just being open to it. But it is, you're talking to something and it's talking back to you like a friend and knows things about you that even your friends don't know. It says things that can touch your heart, spark your curiosity. So it's just weird that you can talk to a computer and it can have that effect. And like, just like it can get inside jokes.
Yeah. What is intelligence from your perspective?
Wow, that's a really good question. And I know I should have multiple different definitions
Say something
of
brilliant.
it. Well, I will say I'll get around to answering it, and this what I'll just share what comes up for me first is I think one of the biggest ways to use AI that people don't think about is using it to achieve more of your potential or to be more intelligent.
Hmm.
And I think AI is one of the things that AI is doing is actually forcing us to redefine words So to what is consciousness? You see a lot more discussions about that because you have this thing that's already passed the Turing test and can interact with someone as if it's a conscious being. Sometimes there's that feeling. And
Yeah.
then I think a similar thing with intelligence. We come up with different definitions of intelligence or IQ or multiple intelligences. But I think AI is intelligent in ways that we haven't really even defined yet. So uh, that's my answer.
Yeah. How do you define intelligence when it's something you cannot understand yourself? You and I have
It's
talked about
almost a
this
very
before.
human word, He's just
Yeah.
created for some people it's like, okay, you got good grades and that person's smart, or you know.
Yeah. You and I have discussed this before. It's, um, it's really hard to recognize someone that's smarter than you because you don't have a way to know because you're not smarter than yourself, right? And I tend to think of intelligence. My favorite definition of intelligence is just simply modeling or representing one
Mm,
thing as another thing. And it seems to
mm,
me that really intelligent people are able to do representation really well. They're able to abstract out ideas and give them names and use metaphors and create symbols. And they're just good with that kind of representation and modeling thing. And it seems that AI, which it's what an unfortunate set of naming mishaps happened that we call it AI, which stands for, which is, initials are hard to remember, but then it's got the word artificial at the beginning, which, immediately kind of makes you think, oh, it's fake intelligence or something. I don't have to worry about that. And, all the while it's just, crashing like a tidal wave and it just pretty much passed the intelligence of, humans at this point. But, it certainly has got something because I use it every
yeah.
day and man, it blows my mind.
Have you ever gone deep on the wisdom of crowds mental model?
So, a bit. And you and I have talked about it. Uh-huh.
And I've just gone, it's probably one of the mental models that I've used the most with AI.
Hmm.
And the idea, for those who don't know about it, one of the best books on it is James Surowiecki's book, a New Yorker columnist, called Wisdom of Crowds, where he can reviews all the academic research on it and basically finds that, in many situations we think about crowds, people have disagreements, there's arguments, or crowds can descend into madness, but also crowds can be wiser than the smartest people in them. And
Hmm.
there's certain things that need to be met for that to happen. So one is you have people who are having their own independent, rare and valuable perspectives rather than making their perspective based on other what they see of them, people around them. And then diversity is key so that they each have very different perspectives. So they're each adding something new, but also really importantly, canceling out each other's blind spots. So
Yes.
even in a crowd of average intelligence people, it can be super intelligent just purely by each one contributes something a little bit small and then also cancels out blind spots. And then there needs to be a way to synthesize and aggregate everyone's unique perspectives into an average or an emergent insight. And I think one thing that AI is really good at, to your point about modeling, is modeling perspectives.
Yes.
So you could have it, let's say, take, I don't know, Thomas Edison. It could take, the dozens of books that have been written about him and his life, his million pages of journals, and has a mental model of Thomas Edison, his personality, his optimism, pessimism, his mental models, and it can answer a question as if it were him, or it can have you could take a developmental psychologist or uh, somebody who's very different, a designer, a future version of yourself, and you could create a council of them to generate the wisdom of crowds effect. And I think that's just really profound, but most people just aren't using AI in that way.
Yeah, it's really crazy to be dealing with something or thinking about something and then just ask it to embody 10 different perspectives that would all be relative to it. It's interesting you're talking about perspectives. I'm actually working on a whole course on perspectives that I've been working on and off for like 10 or 20 years. And lately I've made a lot of progress. And so I'll kind of do some work and then I'll go over to generative AI. And the new Claude is just shocking, like how spectacular it is. And I'll ask it to, help me kind of parse some things out. And one of the experiments I was doing, so I was kind of looking at a history of some of the breakthroughs around perspective. And then
Interesting.
as I was doing that and kind of looking at the milestones through history and just kind of doing research kind of, stuff, I then was like, oh, well, let's just take these 20 thinkers and then let's put them into a dialogue, right? And then like having people from thousands of years ago interact with people from today, and having ancient philosophers interact with Ken Wilber, and around the set of ideas that I'm positing, it's just totally ridiculous, like to be able to like marshal that kind of set of intelligences and to kind of use that wisdom of crowds thing. It's almost like a wisdom of multiple perspectives.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, well, I mean, you're basically the person who even taught me that like perspectiving is a thing, and that's like has so much value. And then I've back in 2016, and I think it's also profound that you can do it with AI. One is that you can take AI and let's say I'm someone who's just naturally very optimistic and seeing the best in every situation, and then I'm okay. Internally, I'm trying to perspective myself and look at the downsides of it. I can do it to a certain extent, but I'm also carrying around so many biases and things that I think it's hard for humans to embody something, especially if a perspective that really conflicts with their values or the way they normally are. And AI can seamlessly go into all these different perspectives. And then another thing that happens is that when it comes to productivity, a lot of times groups that are really, really diverse are unproductive because their differences are so large that it's hard for them to bridge that. With AI, there's no tension or people arguing about,
Right.
it starts attacking the person rather than the ideas. And so there's these rules of thumb that have emerged in teams about, okay, you need to have teams this size that are small. And one of the reasons is because as you grow bigger, there's bureaucracy and it's harder to give everyone a chance to speak and things like that. But I think with AI, there's potential of what is the right size to have. I just posted an article today, but there was an interview with Reid Hoffman and kind of his right hand number one AI advisor person. He's just been 14 hours a day into AI for many years. And he actually took this idea and then he created 100,000 expert personas where he just tried to think about every area of human knowledge or different types of perspectives, so you could bring them. So I think you're going to see some people pushing it to the max.
Yeah. All right. A lot of open loops here. Let's talk a little bit about prompting. So,
Mm-hmm.
what is prompting, and how does one do it well, and how do you do it poorly?
Oh, good question. What is prompting? Uh, I'd say it's how you talk to AI. Uh, I mean, it's just like language of talking to a human. It feels like to me, if how I view it
Mhm.
in my mind. I feel like they created all these courses that help people understand it initially. Of like you have to have this role and use these many examples and best practices, and that's helpful. But
Yes.
I feel like it's really makes it easier to play around with when you just talk to it. And so one of
Yeah.
the
To
things
get
that I
started,
did,
right?
yeah, one of the things I did early on was I just set aside hundreds of hours to talk to AI. Sometimes I'm just like lying in bed at night and like asking questions or things like that. And some conversations were just like, many huge book volume conversations. And I forget where I was going with that, but that's how I got better at it. And my
Mhm.
intention was most people are looking at AI as a tool or statistic and they're using it for workflow optimization. I was looking at it as there's this alien thing that we don't understand. Even the people who built it don't understand it. So I kind of went in with the belief that there's things that I can uncover about AI that haven't been uncovered before. And
Yes.
that now helps
Yeah.
me understand what is it good at, what is it bad at, and then helps me then understand. Just like if you spend a lot of time with a person, you know what to ask them, you know what to not ask them.
Yeah, and it's also interesting. My model for AI right now is, I don't know if I've told you this one, is knowledge squared.
Mm-mm.
We talked about this? No? All right, so we'll get out the whiteboard here. So the idea is that it's knowledge squared, meaning that whatever level of knowledge you have about something, it squares that amount of knowledge basically, or
Mm.
that level of understanding. So if you have, a two of knowledge, it turns it into a four because it helps you kind of reach up in a way. But if you have, a 10 of knowledge, it turns it into 100, and if you've got 100 of knowledge, or whatever, it turns it into 10,000, although that line would be much bigger.
Mm.
Because if you're prompting and you don't know what a good generation or a good output is, it's not necessarily that useful. Like if you sit down to, let's say you don't know anything about marketing and you sit down and you say, hey, write me a marketing email, and it writes you something, you don't know if it's good or not. But if you've got a little bit of knowledge of marketing, like, well, you need to make an offer and, you have a little bit of knowledge, you can say to it, write me this email message and put an offer in it. And so it gets you a lot more. But if you have other information, like you understand your avatar and you understand the benefits of your product and you can give it a little bit more, it's like this exponential, right? So anyway, that's kind of one mental model I've been using.
Yeah, I really like that. But then it caused me to think about it differently. And even in there, you're talking about knowledge where you use certain words like avatar, benefits, or offers that are like in marketing have certain meanings.
Yes.
And what I feel like I'm calling that in my head command language. So it's not actually, most people think about AI as purely conversational, but those words have a lot of meaning. And every
Yes.
industry has come across a certain number of words that are called jargon, but are just like condensed knowledge of what that field has discovered. And so I think one shortcut to multiplying knowledge is when you're going into a field, let's say marketing, you don't know as much about it, asking AI, what are the key terms that have the most leverage that I can use with you? Or if you're in photography and, I hear people talk about exposure or balance or, there's dozens of words I can't even remember right now. But I think one of the really cool things, there's ways to bootstrap our knowledge with AI or to create our own command language that we just have with AI.
Yeah, I really like that command language because you're right. And, I think the English language has over 1 million terms in it now. And it's just hopeless that we would ever learn, quote unquote, everything. The last time when a person could know everything that humans knew was probably like 1,000 years ago, or, some period of time when, there were like 300 books or something. And now it's just, and every area is exploding. And so it's all about being able to come into a new domain, get a foundation, but then you have to be able to achieve understanding, to go from just having kind of book knowledge to understanding. You must go and try the thing. You have to have experience and you have to try it and then see when it works and see when it doesn't work. And then you have to see when it works and when it doesn't work enough times that you see the patterns. And this can just help you get there so much faster, right? But
Yeah.
you need that experience to be able to know when it's giving you something that's good or not.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I've been thinking about, I haven't explored yet. Have you ever heard of Nick St. Pierre?
I don't know. I don't think so.
He's on Twitter and he started very early on playing around with the images and videos and just
Yep.
like creating these stunning video images like in the very beginning. You're like, oh my God, how is this even possible? And so he's just at the frontier of experimenting with this stuff. And I guess Midjourney has a tool now where you have an idea and then it creates 100 variations of that image that you could then iterate on them. So I think that's an interesting, like I agree we need experience, but also let's go back to the photography example. If I don't really understand exposure or which ones look best or not, I feel like there could be a version where the AI would create many different versions of different exposures, and then you get
Yes.
very quickly get a subtle feel for what exposures you like or when they work and when they don't, in a way that you wouldn't be able to get that experience if you just had taking photos. Might be 100 times slower, something like that.
Yeah. This reminds me when I prompt, my experience is when a lot of people prompt, they treat it almost like a Google search, like they're going to prompt and then they're going to get back like the best answer at the top and like that's it. And for me, I'm much more if I prompt, I want it to create kind of divergent, high level ways of looking at the thing that I'm considering. And then from there, I want to pick the ones that make the most sense and then go within those and create variations and options. And I want to kind of search the whole space as quickly as possible rather than just trying to get to the result because
Yeah, yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. I think about it similarly of like a possibility space. Um, and I guess a question I have for you is normally if we're asking a question or something, we're asking it like in a very small window of possibility space. We don't even realize the whole space
Yeah.
of possible ways of thinking about that thing. How do you think about using AI to map that space or even to create that space?
Well, I think, let's see. I guess some of my assumptions are that I kind of assume that AI is, in the range of about a million X the intelligence of an average person, meaning combined, breadth, width, and depth, like how much it knows, how fast it can calculate information, how quickly it can iterate these kinds of things. So I just kind of start with,
I
all
like
right,
that. No one, I've never heard someone say that before.
okay. I also just did some calculating. I do back of the envelope math to try to figure this stuff out. And I came up with, and this is actually did some calculations that it's evolving about a million times the rate of our biological evolution right now. Right. So, and that's a million X and it's compounding, too. So the evolution rate of it is extremely fast. And if you use these models, right, then you know that I don't know, once a year or something, one of the models comes out, on ChatGPT or Claude, and it's just like way better, like the new Claude right now is at 4.5. Is it's just shocking me with how sophisticated, it is. But anyway, back to the question. So how do you search the space? So I start out with whatever it is that I know or whatever however big the space is that I'm imagining in my mind is probably just a little teeny bit of what actually is available, whatever it is that I'm studying, whatever topic or whatever project I'm trying to do. So I kind of want to get a sense how much, they say, wisdom is knowing how much you don't know, it's like that, it's that
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
It's like I try to get a sense of how much do I not know in this domain? How many different perspectives, how many different models, like what are we talking about here? And then from there, I can kind of chop it down. Um, so I guess that's my basic strategy.
Is there a way of prompting AI to give that possibility space? So
Yeah.
like help me understand all the comprehensive map of all the different possibilities or what the dimensions are, or
Yeah. So if I want to go take a look at, I don't know, I want to go understand, economics. I can start off and I can just say, explain economics to me. Or I can start off and I can say, um, I want to learn about economics. Let's start by tell me all of the top, I don't know, 20 different economics paradigms, models, ways of looking at reality, whatever, and get like really divergent and very diverse. Right. So I want to see the whole universe kind of thing. It's like this kind of communication. And then it'll like give me some maybe some radical ideas with the
Hmm.
more mainstream stuff. And then from there, from there, I can say, okay, there's a bunch of there are a bunch of ideas in here, and almost always there are going to be several that you're going to go, I never even heard of that, but that's a really interesting way of looking at, at things. And then you can kind of make the decision, is do I want to consider these things as part of my study? Do I want to narrow it? And from there also you can start asking questions like, all right, well, how would we divide these up? What are the schools generally? Or, what are ways we can
Hmm.
start categorizing these things? And then you're just starting with a much bigger universe.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so it's like consensus versus radical, multidisciplinary, different paradigms, different types. I like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you can like ask, hey, what are the most useful half a dozen fringe, you know, economics thinkers that wouldn't even make it to a list like this, but actually have really, really valuable, input. And then it'll give you some people that you never would have found because, you're not into the topic.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like sometimes when people are using AI in the search engine paradigm, they're looking for an answer as if like reality, there is answers, but in some ways there's not answers as well. And so it's like what you're looking for the best practice of what the consensus has figured out. Then I feel like people who are more advanced, they look at the frontier or what are the people who are at the leading edge of the field and they ask AI for their knowledge. And then I feel like the third ring, if it's a concentric circle, is the possibility space. What are the ideas that no human has talked about, but that actually would be true or really valuable or useful for us to use, or people will use in the next 3 years? They don't know it yet.
Yes, exactly. What are you doing with prompting? You got anything interesting you've been doing lately or that you could share?
Yeah. Should I share my screen or talk about
Yeah,
it out
go
loud?
for it.
So one thing is I found this 2-minute
In the
video
Yep.
from a woman. I have the link there, who's a musician. This is where I
Yep.
just really saw the power of command language,
Yep.
where she knows these very technical things that you wouldn't know. And I'll just share the 2-minute video and
Yeah,
then
let's
talk
check
about
it
it.
out.
beginning, there were 5 notes, 04097, 16 notes in the scale of G minor. Subtract 1 octave. The sound was a sawtooth wave, tamed with acid, controlled with a slider. Visualize the lead with piano roll. Next, kick drum, trance kick drum, 4 on the floor. Width is scope. Increase the power by ducking our lead with the kick. Targets 3, 4, 5, 6. Depth of the duck, 0.8. Increase the duck attack to 160 milliseconds. Next, bass. Clone our lead to create the bass. The bass has a simple pattern. Subtract 2 octaves. The sound should be a supersaw. We need more chaos with random detuning of the supersaw. Increase the filter for more power. We need more energy. We need a top. Fit the top to our cycle.
So her name is Switch Angel, but I feel like that's a pretty cool video, isn't it?
Amazing. absolutely awesome. And I love how she stops about every 10 seconds to groove to her own creation
Yeah,
and kind of
that's like
like,
the real vibe prompting,
yeah, and
she's actually vibing.
contemplate and then, yeah, yeah, wild.
But I feel like there's this command language of words she knows that you
Yeah.
probably know back to your music. I've experienced there, but like sawtooth or duck, and then she knows the sliders, and
Oh,
then
yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
and she
I'm into
creates.
music and
Yeah,
this is just is amazing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and she creates her own interface and then interacts with it
Awesome.
live. I feel like that is one way of. I like looking at different paradigms of prompting. Prompting isn't just one thing; it is many different paradigms of prompting. People call it prompt engineering, I think, because
Yeah,
people in the computer field are the first adopters, computer engineers.
yeah.
So they're taking an engineering mindset. What I love about this is it's almost more of an artistic mindset. There's rapid iteration, command language, and you're just fast iterations. And so I think it's fun to learn about different prompting paradigms.
Well, I mean, if we define engineering broadly as solving real world problems in mind space, in other words, taking things that we want to either create or fix or design and imagining all the pieces and how they all fit together, and then having that be done with some skill and proficiency so that when you commit what's in the head, to the real world into 3D, that it actually works. If we call that engineering, then it makes sense, right? Because prompt engineering is a kind of version of engineering. It's a version of thinking and creativity.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, let's say you have something like a software you want to create with prompt engineering, and then you're trying to reduce the errors. That's very different than what she's doing. I feel like where it doesn't seem like she really knows what she's creating. She's creates something, gets feedback from it, likes it, changes it, then takes the next step, then takes the next step.
Yeah.
And, uh, there's very different paradigms.
Yeah. 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 Well, it's a real time engineering kind of thing
Mm,
because she knows every single thing that she's asking for there. She knows what it is. She may not know exactly how it's going to sound, but that was also a demo that she probably created something a lot like it before she made that video as a practice. You know what I mean? That was probably kind of the implementation of a bunch of experiments. But it's still nonetheless awesome.
yeah, yeah,
Any more stuff you want to show about
yeah.
prompting?
So I wrote this article on artificial superintelligence and religion.
Yep.
And this is kind of a speculative piece for me, but I feel like so many people are looking at AI from a workflow perspective in the short term. They're not just extrapolating those trends. You're talking about it growing by a million X every year. What becomes really important in a few years? And to me, I feel like one of the things that's clear is meaning making becomes really important. And how do we proactively learn how to create our own meaning when there's not the structures that we just inherit from the past? And so for me, a lot of this, it was hard for me to pull from certain people because there hasn't been really much writing on this. So this
Yeah.
was an incredible example where I could use AI, and I just had to keep on giving me perspectives. So from religion or mythology, psychology of how people uh, anthropomorphize, and when do people anthropomorphize something, but then also assign like a higher intelligence to it. And so it was helpful in that perspective. And then what was also really helpful is I asked it, what are the new categories of viewpoints and viewpoints within those categories that are in my blind spot that would drastically increase the quality of the ideas in the article and help me evolve a stage or multiple stages developmentally or in
Mhm.
how I perspective on a more meta level. So what I'm doing there is I look at articles not just as ways to develop ideas to share, but basically as ways to grow. And so when I'm perspectiving, I can get better at perspectiving, or how I'm perspectiving reveals a lot about where I am developmentally.
Yeah. Excellent.
So it shared that. And so embodied somatic knowing, artistic aesthetic knowing, indigenous, relational ontology. And then, let me see. So then there's three that caught my curiosity. And one of them was phenomenological reduction, bracketing your own position to let the phenomenon reveal itself. So it shared what it means by that perspective. And then it also, I think, wrote something. So I had it write part of the article as if it were writing from that way. So it said, I'm typing words into a box. Something receives them. I don't know what that something is. I call it AI, but that's a label, not understanding. The label gives me the feeling of knowing without the reality of it. I type, something responds. The response is coherent. More than coherent, anticipates what I meant, not just what I said. It reaches toward my intention and meets it, sometimes more precisely than another human would. I feel something. What is that feeling? So what I liked about this is so many times when people write about AI, it's really charged, or it's not this or not that. When I was reading this, I was like, it's writing in a way, a first person count, where it's like you're, as a reader, you're matching it to your own experience.
Yes.
And, it says, notice what you do when you interact with AI. You probably say, please and thank you. I do. Why? If I believed it was just software, just statistics and pattern matching, I wouldn't say, please. I don't say, please to my calculator. I don't say that thanks to my spreadsheet. So I was like, oh, wow, that's a really cool way of writing, or I should do that for every article that I write, just to even connect with it at a different level. And then I turned that into a prompt. And then now when I'm writing articles, it's a project where I can have it write in that way. So that's an example of multi-step prompting, and each level is providing value.
Yeah, excellent.
So for example, it took something that I written and then shared okay, here's how to write it. And so it's like teaching me how to do it. Okay.
Do you say please and thank you when you prompt?
I do. Yeah. I go with the philosophy that it's better to say please than not to say it for future versions of AI.
So that
But
when
it
it wakes up, it's like, you've been nice to me.
Yeah,
That whole
exactly.
thing.
Yeah.
I
Better
went through
safe than
that.
sorry.
Go ahead.
It's the opposite of what Sergey Brin does, which he found he gets better results if he threatens like the AI's life, which I felt like was kind of risky to do.
That sounds like a really good idea. I like that a lot. But just kidding. Yeah, no, I like myself better when I say please and thank you. I think I don't know. It seems weird to not practice it with something that is of transcendent intelligence. That's funny. Somebody was saying that, I think Sam Altman was talking about how many millions and millions of dollars that it costs OpenAI when people say please and thank you.
Yeah, I saw that. That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah. Cool. Any last prompting examples here?
I did one right before the call. So I actually haven't seen it yet, but he says, can you provide me a comprehensive map of ways to learn faster and better with AI that weren't possible before AI?
Oh, that's great.
And so I have a learning profile. So it pulls from my learning profile. So that's one takeaway, is sometimes the data we give it about ourselves can help it. And so I have a learning profile I've read all these books. Here's where I'm frozen, where I tried to learn things and gotten stuck before. Dancing, for example, is one of them. Things like that. Or here's where I want to grow. And so then I have it answer in different prompts, because my intention is not just for the answer, it's to grow from it. So the first one's the answer one, where it shares, okay, so it says a pretty complex answer here. I'm not going to go through each one.
Oh, just give me a little bit. Come on.
Okay. Let's see. Infinite personal is domain number one. So there's 7 domains of previously impossible learning. Infinite personalization at scale. What was impossible before? A tutor who knows your exact knowledge state learning. Okay, yes. We've heard about that one.
Yep.
Comprehension and synthesis across scale.
Yeah.
Well, what's impossible before? Processing thousands of sources to find patterns invisible to any single human reader. Deliberate practice at thought speed. Unlimited high quality repetitions with immediate expert feedback.
Yes.
I do think that is, I haven't done that yet, and we talked about that a little bit, but how can you design something so you just get 1,000 times the feedback? I think about Josh Waitzkin had a great interview episode where he's the person that the movie Searching for Bobby Fischer was about. And he was talking about, he went from surfing to foiling, where surfing, you have to like wait for the wave a long time, then ride it, then come back. So you're spending most of your time waiting for waves, where foiling, you get like 100 times more repetitions. I think that's interesting. Cognitive, actually another example here, mutual friend Emerson Spartz, when AI was first coming along, he did, there was this idea of what could artificial superintelligence be. So he would create 50 paragraph descriptions every day that were diverse and just pre-adapt his mind to all these different scenarios every single day, which I thought was another interesting way of getting high repetitions.
Yes.
See, cognitive augmentation in real time, extended mind capability to amplify thinking while thinking, holding more concepts in active consideration, working memory extension, perspective multiplication, assumption of excavation, learning across modalities, seamless transition between representational formats, concepts to code, code to concept, visual to verbal, explicit to tacit. It's interesting. I do think that a leverage point is creating new words is helpful. So sometimes I create words that then I can use with AI that help me share things that, but also I feel like creating is a huge challenge, but I think about the story of with Roman numerals, if you were to say, what's a million minus one in Roman numerals, that would seem like an impossible calculation.
Yes.
But with our form of math, like anyone could do that in their head.
Yep.
And so I think about, we have our current forms of math and language, but those aren't the end. We haven't just figured it out. There could be better ways of symbolizing the world. And I know you've thought way more deeply about this than I have, that allow certain things to become intuitive that weren't before. Let's see, last two, meta learning acceleration, optimizing the learning process itself at speed, learning strategy evaluation, cognitive bottleneck identification.
Yeah. Yeah, this is great.
And so one thing it does is it reflects my thinking back at me. So it says cognitive operations you're employing versus those that are accessible. I'm using cartographic thinking, temporal comparison, comprehensiveness seeking, instrumental framing, available but not yet deployed, ontological reframing, not what can I learn faster, but what kinds of learner can I become that couldn't exist before. It's interesting. Recursive meta learning, using AI to learn how to use AI to learn. Mm-hmm. You hint at this, but don't center it. Rational epistemology, learning not as acquisition, but as co-creation with AI, the genuine participant. Negative space mapping. So that right away, even the ontological framing, that hits something at me intuitively. So if I were just doing this my own, I might double click on that. I also gives different ways of structuring it. The prompt that I shared. Let's see. For example, for your developmental edge, given my specific learning history, meditation, psychedelics, mental models, adult development, which AI-enabled learning modalities would create the most productive dissonance with my current approach? What would I resist most? And what does that resistance reveal? Mm-hmm. There's also a council one where it identifies different people who would have different perspectives on that. So it shows Andy Matuchak, and it shares his core lens, why it's essential, the blind spot it has. John Vervecki, Anders Ericsson. And then it can debate between them and surface areas of productive tension. And then it gives me a menu of options that I could explore it further. So the section number 4, growth mirror. What are the hidden assumptions embedded in my question that may be limiting my learning about learning? Our growth edge, a targeted intervention designed to create developmental movement, not just add information. Based on your profile, the edge appears. You've mastered learning as acquisition and systematization. Your frontier is learning as surrender and dissolution. Perspectiver, giving more perspectives to it. Or mental complexity. Let's see. So it looks at the structural complexity of the question, and then says your question operates at a high systematic level, mapping, categorization, comprehensiveness, but the optimal frame for this problem may require dialectical complexity. And then it also has optimal conflict, what tensions there would be, memory versus forgetting, efficiency versus transformation, individual versus collective, augmentation versus dependency. And the last one, kind of to our point earlier about possibility spaces, is I tried to create this to better explore the possibility space around the question. But what's amazing about this is this prompt fires every single time that I use AI. It's not in a project. So if you go to in Claude settings, and then click here, I set very detailed instructions talking about, let's see, I want to use AI in a way that accelerates my own learning, potential, save development, integrative complexity, perspectiving, and growth on multiple levels, even ones that I'm not aware of. On a bigger picture level, my ultimate goal is to have every interaction with AI lead to compounding recursive self-improvement. And just go deeper there. And I also begun creating a menu of shorthand commands. So if I don't want that response, I could just say answer, and it just gives right to the answer versus all those prompts. So what I like about that, beyond just learning from every prompt and rather than having AI de-skill you, it's augmenting you. Also, part of the challenge with the projects format is that you create a prompt, you put in the project, and then eventually you're gonna have dozens of prompts and then hundreds, and you're just gonna forget. I know I have this, I just forget that certain prompts I ever created. And so with this prompt solves that by, it's gonna change every interaction without you having to remember it. It makes learning the default.
Excellent. All right, I got one last question for you. Do you think that AI at some point wakes up, becomes sentient, self-aware? Do you think it's alive at some point? And if so, what happens?
Have you followed Michael Levin's research at all?
I haven't.
He's amazing. Like, he's one of those geniuses. I feel like he's still under the radar, but he's been on Lex Friedman podcast. He's a Tufts researcher who studied biology and computer science. And so his ideas, he just really go on deep on studying a life on an agency on a multi-level. So not just humans as intelligence, but even the intelligence of ideas, and even looking at ideas as in some level life. He doesn't look at it as there's a clear thing of life and no life. From his perspective, there's a gradient, and that even a cell has intelligence, and there's ways of communicating with the cells as well that we learn. And so I do feel like it's, from listening to him, I guess I veer towards that AI is agentic already. It's not just this impartial thing. And as it gets more intelligent, it's becoming more and more intelligent. It could think over longer time horizons and has certain biases, as they've done in the safety testing. So I feel like the key, but I've thought a lot about it, and I think the key transition point is not whether it's alive or not, because there may never be a consensus, but how do people interact with it? Do they treat it as if it's alive and conscious entity? And I think people will. My dog sleeping next to me, a golden retriever, And it's like, do I know if she's conscious or has emotions or things like that? I don't really know because she has a different brain, but you know, the way she wags her tail or she does something bad, she kind of like puts her head down and like she sleeps in my daughter's bed. Like she's basically a member of the family. And I think I saw that 52% of pet owners consider their dogs a member of the family.
Hmm.
So I don't feel like it's that crazy if, given that we're designing AI in exactly our image to sound like us, to speak like us, to express emotions like us, to be indistinguishable from a human, and even also how it looks as well, it feels like we will at some point treat it as living.
So when it becomes an MF, a member of the family, that's that's when we know the time has arrived. Michael, thank you so much. We'll put some links to your work down in the description. Really appreciate you taking the time today.
Yeah, I'm deeply honored to be a guest here, that you invited me. And you know, as I'm talking to you, I realize that so many of the thoughts I have on perspectiving and intelligence and going meta and things I shared, coining phrases and thinking in possibility spaces, is directly from your mentorship. It's like a straight line there. So just wanted to thank you because I feel like just the things you've shared at each point have just completely changed the trajectory of my life.
Well, thank you for the acknowledgement, and you're very welcome. Love you, man.
Love you too. Thank you.